Hello everyone, this is Jotto, and welcome to another deck tech. Now, for this video, I'll be covering Carebears, Starwatcher's brew that he's been working on for a while, and it actually works now. So yes, congrats to him. Now, what is this? This is a Reverence deck that is using Order instead of Corruption as its secondary color. Although in the case of Hatebears, it's more Nature as the secondary color, but the hero power kind of makes up for that. Anyway. So this was part of my Masters lineup. Now Masters, I'm not doing a full recap video on it because it was almost identical to last month. Yeah, I ended up going 3-1 again, and I lost to Peacekeeper in the finals. So I guess I'm getting closer. went 3-0 and then 3-1 this time, so it's a bit closer, I guess. But yeah, I ran this, Crazy Rage, and Wisdom Dominion, and to give you an idea of how ridiculously stale it was before the new cards came in, those two lists were completely identical. Like, they were exactly the same lists. I think there might be one card different. I can't remember. I think they're exactly the same list, to be honest. But, yep, this got banned almost all the way through, so I just played the same Masters I did, and I played a bunch of mirror matches. So yeah, that was Masters. Yeah. Now I'm not doing the full recap or deck techs on it because, well, it's all obsolete information now anyway because we've got new cards. So yeah, there's no point in me really doing in-depth coverage. However, I will cover this because I actually really like this list, even with all the new cards, and I think it is still really, really strong and worth looking at. So anyway. Let's get into the list properly, starting off with the hero power, the most important thing. Never, well, advanced never to be exact, with her ability Reverence. So if you have 2 nature and a generic and 2 mana, 3-turn cooldown, you can make all your creatures cost 1 less to a minimum of 1 this turn, and then they draw a card when you play them. This is one of the most powerful hero powers in the game. In fact, I would argue it is on its own the most powerful hero power because it's basically created 2 different decks. And it's so powerful that they've got the balance stuff coming up next week, which is the reason I'm not doing a deck tech on something completely new. I mean, this is fairly new, but I mean something completely new. That's why I'm not doing that, because I don't know whether it's going to get changed. I don't think Reverence will, but it is getting a little insane. Yeah, Reverence is getting a bit nuts, but yeah, I don't think Reverence will. But yeah, the rest of the stuff, I'm like, let's do demons. Oh, it's got a card that will probably get changed. Let's do Dominion midrange. Oh, that's got 3 cards that will probably get changed. You get the idea. So in this case, it won't be, you know, obsolete information a week from now. So Reverence basically allows you to spam a whole bunch of 2 mana creatures for 1 mana, and late game it gives you a ridiculous amount of sustain that very few decks can compete with. Now, Hatebears takes advantage of this by using disruption creatures. So that's more of an anti-controlling stance. Whereas Carebears just puts a massive amount of stats into play. And basically, if you're not running Cataclysm, you're dead. There's nothing you can do later on. So this deck has, compared to Hatebears, because it's less like middly in terms of strategy, like Hatebears will function against everything, like everything. It has a pretty good game plan overall, whereas Carebears has, instead of 60% matchups against everything, it's like 90% against half the field, and then it has a couple bad matchups to make up for it. So yeah, it's a little bit more focused in terms of its matchups because of the creature strategy as opposed to the more disruption-based strategy. So anyway, let's start with the bottom of the curve. Call of Yalaya. Now, Call of Yalaya is your de facto 1-drop. There's only 2 of them, and it's a consistency booster, because this allows you to get a lot of the 2s which you're going to need, since this deck does have some silly explosive openings. So yeah, this allows you to get the piece you're missing to get your ridiculous, like, 4 creature openings with Summoner Druid. So yeah, this is very, very nice, and it also allows you to do random things like tutoring up disruption late game. So yeah, because there are a few disruption cards just in nature. So yeah, pretty powerful card, and only a 2-of because you don't really want that many spells, but it does turn itself into a creature at least, so you can set up for references if you have it in your hand. So what are you tutoring? Well, there are a lot of 2-mana nature creatures in this deck. First things first, the most basic of them, Elf Warrior. Now Elf Warrior, 2/2, 3 speed, the most basic card ever, but very, very powerful. You'd be surprised how powerful 3 speed is. It's one of those things where it's like, well, it's just a 2/2. Yeah, but it's a 2/2 that dominates all creature combat, because 3 speed makes it very hard to interact with. It trades with Assassin, being the only other 2-drop that can really compete with it, but it's a lot more offensive, but less utility-wise late game. But it also will sneak through trades if you've got multiple creatures with 3 speed. You can start taking out higher cost creatures. Like, you can take out an Insatiable Ghoul with 2 3-speed 2/2s and only lose one of them. And there's basically nothing your opponent can do, because the rest of the corruption creatures outside of Infected Survivor, which you probably already took out with the Elf Warrior last turn, can really block to stop that. So 3 speed is huge, and it also allows you to get lethals through, which you probably shouldn't be able to. So yeah, Elf Warrior is super, super good. Now, also playing 3 Silverfang. Elf Warriors, well, yeah, I've said this before. Elf Warriors 5 through 7. So yeah, Silverfang is better and worse. It's worse because it's legendary. It's better because that secondary effect, being deadly to evil creatures, actually does come up. It comes up a lot more now than it used to. So yeah, Silverfang is still very, very nice. However, you don't have the crazy shenanigans with basic Neva. So yeah, you can't just give one Swift and snipe something like you can in Elves. So less useful, but still, you want your extra 2-drops. Having your 2-drops is huge in this deck because of Summoner Druid, which is what we're going to go over next. Now, Summoner Druid is completely busted in this deck. It's actually insane. Well, okay, first things first, it's a Reverence deck, which means if you have a Summoner Druid in play, you can go Reverence, Creature, Summoner, Creature, 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 and it's just insane. But besides that, it allows you to do some very silly things, which is why Call of Ulia is so powerful in this deck, or one of the reasons. Where you can go turn 1, if you went second, you can go turn 1, Summoner Druid, Elf Warrior. It's like, okay, so what do? Do you kill the Summoner Druid? Well, you have to, because otherwise the next turn is Elf Warrior, and then like Jungle Death Trap, and you're just dead. Or if you're like, if you don't have that opening, you can also do it with Elite Vanguards as your second one if you're going first. So yeah, that gets kind of nuts. So yeah, Summoner Druid is very, very, very strong. Being able to reduce the cost by 2 basically makes every creature in the deck free. Is there a single creature in the deck actually that isn't? Yeah, okay, yeah, they all cost 2. So yeah, it makes every single creature in the deck free. I mean, sometimes you think, well, maybe you can run Thionor, so that would be the only one that wouldn't be reduced to nothing. But yeah, being able to just turbo creatures out, especially considering with Reverence it actually draws you cards, is a very powerful ability. The body on it is kind of terrible, but still worth the explosive power you get from this thing. So, Jungle Death Trap. Only a 2-of. Now, the reason this is only a 2-of is because it's not really a reliable 2-drop, which means you just don't want 2. Now, keep in mind this is a deck that wants to start with Summoner Druid, which means if you have 2 Death Traps, yeah. Basically, you have to stagger them, and it doesn't work, really, because when they play one guy, it kills both Death Traps. However, it is one of the most egregiously powerful cards against control decks. It's absolutely hilarious. The 4/4 that just sticks around, never dies. It's also really good against the more mid-rangey rage decks, because you can play it into a Phoenix, or you can play it into their Phoenix turn, and then they play Phoenix, and it's like, well, if you have a bounce effect, they're actually dead, because they're taking Death Trap damage, and what are they going to do, play it again? And if you have a second bounce effect, they've taken 8 damage from a 2-drop, so yeah, they can't really do that, and it doesn't even block the Death Trap. So they have to play something into Death Trap, and it allows you to get a little bit of disruption. Not a lot, but a little bit of disruption, and Call of Ulia can function as a way of getting this more reliably against control decks, so it's like you're effectively playing 4, which is quite nice. So yeah, against control decks at least, because you're never, like, if you have Call of Elia in your opening hand against a control deck and you have a Summoner Druid, well, Call of Elia, get Death Trap, next turn Summoner Druid Death Trap against a control deck, and it's like, well, you can kill the Summoner Druid and then take 4 twice, probably, because that's not very good, and it will just straight out trade with the Library Guards or Mutant that's coming down afterwards, or the Harpy. So yeah, Death Trap, very, very powerful, but a bit awkward in multiples, so only 2 in the deck. Now, the last of the 2 drops is the Gurkha Tribe Shaman. Now, this is one of the cards that hasn't really made much of a splash, but is very powerful in this deck. So, 2-1, but you can play it as a Might Emblem. It's a very strange dual nature. So, you can play it as a Might Emblem by putting it under a creature. Now, this makes it hilariously annoying to face with Dominion and Rage, because you can put this under an Elite Vanguard and it becomes a 4/4, which is basically immune to all rage removal, at least that early in the game. And against Cataclysm decks, this is one of the ways you actually beat them. You get multiple Shamans under a creature, and then they Cataclysm, and they're probably on like 6 life, and then you get 2 Gurkhos, and then maybe instill for some Cavalry Field Captains, and then you just kill them. So that's actually how you can win against the Cataclysm decks, which is basically this deck's main weakness. So yeah, Shaman looks a bit innocuous, but is surprisingly powerful. Note, you can't instill it for the second ability, for the Might Emblem, because you have to play it from hand. However, you can use it with Reverence with the Might Emblem, since you're still technically playing it. So yeah, it actually does count. It counts as a creature, even if you're using its spell-like effect. So yeah, quite a powerful card, and is also just a random tutor target. This is something else you go for against control with Call of Elia, because you're going to want multiple into Cataclysm. So, now that we're done with the 2 drops, there's a lot of them in this deck. Let's get on to the 3 drops. First things first, the big vanilla Vanguard. Yes, Elite Vanguard, 3/3 Soldier. Now, the Soldier, not relevant here. However, the 3/3/2 speed, this is another card where you look at it and it's like, that actually seems decent. And then I remember starting out and I was thinking, oh, 3/3 vanilla, that seems decent. It probably won't be good in competitive play. Yeah, 3/3 is actually quite large in this game. Yeah, 3/3 stats is quite a lot on a 3-drop. Especially considering you can still life it later on, and it works incredibly well with Summoner Druid, because if you're going first, you can go Summoner Druid, and then like Elf Warrior, and then next turn you can go, say, Gurkha Tribe, and Elite Vanguard. That actually curves. So yeah, there's a lot of options, and you'd be surprised how consistently you get those openings, since you're effectively playing 6 Summoner Druids, and almost everything else in the deck works in that opening. So yeah, Elite Vanguard, very, very powerful, but just vanilla. Not really much to talk about, but quite a powerful card. Also very good against Rage. Requires an entire 3-mana removal to itself, which means they're behind on tempo. And also, if you put a Gurkha Tribe Shaman under it, it becomes immune to Fireball effects. They have to actually trade into it with the Goblin as well, and then you still get the Gurkha Tribe. It's not like Touch of Light, where you're 2 for 2. No, they 2 for 1 themselves. So yeah, Elite Vanguard, very, very good against Rage. Cavalry Field Captain, the other order creature in this deck. Oh dear, CFC is, like, it's synonymous with order at this point. It's so powerful. Being able to give something +1/+1 would be good enough. Speed as well, that's just insane. The retreat ability does come up probably the least with this deck I've ever seen out of any deck. It does still come up, but not very frequently. And the reason for that is because you have a lot of combat-based disruption through nature, which means that you don't really need to retreat out of combat with CFC that much, but it does come up sometimes. Now, CFC allows you to do some very silly things. It allows you to trade up with Elf Warrior, well, not even trade, just kill Library Guards straight up with Elf Warrior. It allows you to turn Vanguard into a 4/4/3 speed, which will obliterate pretty much anything, from Insatiable Ghoul to even Karthus at that point, although I think the game doesn't usually go that long. So yeah, it's very, very powerful, and it just allows you to take random free kills, and sometimes trades, but mostly just random free kills. It also works really, really well with Instill Life and Reverence, which are the 2 big power plays in the mid to late game. So very, very powerful card, 4 of, for a reason. Now, we've got the Unicorn, 2 of. This is the other disruption effect that nature gives you. With Call of Yoli, it's effectively 4. It basically says destroy Burning Rage on it, but nowadays it also kills Rain in the Underworld. So, you kind of need it. Also Vampirism. So yeah, you kind of need it, and it's a bit awkward to have a couple in your hand just sitting around, especially considering you've got other 3-drops that you really want to be playing. I mean, you've got 8 other 3-drops that you want to be playing out of the order. So, being able to tutor this with Call of Yoli is quite nice, and is one of those things where it's like, well, Call of Yoli functions as the extra copies of cards that you don't really want to have extra copies of in most situations, but sometimes you need them. Also, you can Tornado your own Unicorn, which is a thing. So, now that we're done with the early game creatures, there is one more creature in the deck to talk about before we talk about the spells a bit more. Ancient Treant. Haven't seen this guy in a while, have we? Now, yeah, this is the 3/4 that locks your opponent's stuff down. Ancient Treant in Still Life has been a combo for a very long time. It fits so perfectly, because in Still Life only requires the 1 order. Now, back then it was used with Fae of Charm and Hermeleon, but it's still useful here, and it also works hilariously well with Reverence. 1 mana, and it has the same level requirements. So, yeah, Ancient Treant, you'd be surprised how powerful this guy is. 3/4 is very hard to deal with, but its weakness normally was that it was very easy to trade into. However, the rest of your board is huge, so they can't really just trade into the Treant. So you don't get as punished for it, and you can also CFC to pump this up, and you can use Gurkha Tribe Shaman to pump it up. So it becomes even harder to actually interact with. Just one of these will shut down a Phoenix. Multiple becomes completely impossible to deal with for Rage. Because keep in mind, most of their removal is, well, 3 damage. Only exceptions being Dragonfire and the dragon itself, but there's other ways of dealing with that. And needless to say, this deck absolutely obliterates Rage. It's actually funny. I think when we tried out the matchup, we went 5-0. And it wasn't even close. And one of those games was like Dragon on curve off 2 Burning Rage or something, which should just be the end of the game against a nature deck. And like 8 turns later, he still lost. It was just ridiculous. Like, it's kind of insane how hard this deck crushes red. But, yeah, the Treant also just allows you to get past random stuff and the more control-y decks like Djinn of Wishes. So, yeah, very, very nice disruption for your opponent's defensive plans, along with your bounce effects. So, onto the spells. Now, I've talked about it a lot so far. In Still Life. In Still Life allows you to resurrect 2 2-mana creatures, which is every creature in the deck. All of them are 2 mana or less. Now, this is one of the most powerful effects in this kind of deck, because it allows you to get a nice toolbox out of your graveyard. So you get to tutor up stuff with Call of Yoli on the nature side at least, and then you get to instill it later as well. Basically meaning that you have massive recursion. It's kind of insane. You've got a huge amount of recursion. Only 3 instill though, because again, spell counts get a bit awkward with Reverence. But yeah, it gives you a huge amount of recursion out of each creature, and being able to tutor up stuff like CFC is just unfair. I mean, not tutor up, being able to resurrect stuff like CFC is just unfair, and you also get to use it on just Elite Vanguard for stats, or extra 3-speed stuff, or Ancient Treant. Yeah, getting 2 Treants is not a fair thing against a lot of decks, because they just can't deal with them en masse. So if you get multiple Treants off this, well, you've effectively just resurrected 6-8 in stats. That also locks down your opponent's board. So yeah, Instill, very, very powerful. And I guess the only problem with it is you can't use Call of Yoli to tutor up multiple CFCs to resurrect multiple at once with Instill. But yeah, no Namir in this deck. I guess that's the other drawback. So rest of the spells, we got our Bounce spell suite as normal. 4 Tornado. Now, there's 4 Tornado, 2 Landslides in this deck. I was a bit confused as to why of those numbers until I played with it, and it makes sense. So basically, Tornado allows you to do end of turn, which is kind of a big deal, and also the 1 mana thing allows you to generate massive amounts of tempo early game, which is where this deck shines. Because if you think about it, between this and Summoner Druid, you can actually be something insane like 10 mana ahead of your opponent on turn like 5. So yeah, multiple tornadoes on a Phoenix. Like, if you tornado a Phoenix, you just generate a 2 mana and tempo. And if you do it again, generate another 2. Yes, you're behind on cards, but Reverence makes up for that. And you're not playing the long grindy games like Hate Bears are. You're playing the sort of like early game punch that is very hard to stop once it gets moving. Because Reverence is usually a tempo loss in the mid game. But it doesn't really matter if you've got a bunch of creatures in play and then you go Reverence and then 2 more guys. That's the only reason why this deck has a slight weakness to Cataclysm, is because Cataclysm's a tempo reset a lot of the time, so it makes it a little harder to just push through. But against every other deck, it seems to just generate massive amounts of velocity that you just can't deal with, and Tornado really does help in that aspect. Now, Landslide is Landslide. There's not really much to talk about. Landslide is crazy. One of the best cards in the game, and it allows you to deal with stuff you really shouldn't be able to. Like Lamp, because Lamp requires 5 mana to set up an attack. So if you landslide 2 Lamps, they're down 10 mana, which is actually just enough to kill them a lot of the time. So yeah, Landslide, super powerful there. But in general, being able to landslide stuff like a Burning Rage and a Phoenix, so they can't even play the Phoenix next turn, is just brutal. And it really does utterly destroy the slower rage decks, as I've mentioned a couple times. But it also just helps against really random stuff. The only problem with Landslide is reusable enter the battlefield effects like Succubus and Karthus. Karthus in particular, Succubus not as much. Although Ancient Treant does have a nice quirk of being able to get past Succubus. So instead of removing the Succubus, you just lock it down, which does help. But yeah, Landslide not as powerful in this deck because it's so tempo driven. Kind of reminds me of the numbers in Elves. Elves ended up running 2 Landslide in the end. Simply because Tornado is a better tempo card, whereas Landslide is like, it's tempo, but it's also removal and does not put you down a card. But card advantage, not really a problem in a Reverence deck. So yeah, that's the entire deck. Now, as for the shrines, 10 order, 8 nature, which I think is actually a mistake there. Yep, that should be the other way around. I have made a mistake in that. Oh well. Anyway, no one spotted that. Anyway, 8 order, 10 nature. Got those numbers the wrong way around. So basically, the reason for that is you want double nature and you want to start nature, so you need more nature. It's actually kind of funny that I've spotted that mistake now, because I was like, well, I do actually get a lot of shrine problems. Yep, so that's the first time that's actually happened to me. But anyway, so yeah, 10 nature and then 8 order, because you need the double nature and you want to start nature, but you do need 1 order by turn 3. Or sometimes 2 if you're in a second. So yeah, you do actually need the second level to be order, but you really don't want to be drawing multiple orders after that. So yeah, 10 nature, 8 order. So anyway, let's head into a ranked game if we can. I've been trying out a bunch of new stuff, which means my rating has dropped a substantial amount, but I'm still in top 10 as far as I know. So yeah. Now I'm being messaged, so I'll just disable the capture just to check it, and then go back into the game when we actually hit Q. Okay. But yeah, as far as the expansion goes, there's been a little bit of talk about the balance. Okay, that's an understatement. A lot of talk about the balance. And I'm not really sure where it is right now, because there's a lot of just random swingy effects. Now, this hand is not good. It's got Call of Elia, but I don't really have anything else I can play with it. This is not that much better because I don't have a 2-drop. But yeah, the balance discussion has been very interesting to watch. But I feel like a lot of it is just based around very, very swingy cards. Like, I've tried a lot of the decks that should be overpowered, and I'm not sure if they are, but they definitely have draws where it's just like, this is a thing. It's just like, this is actually happening. So Yeah, I'm not entirely sure about this. Now, I could go Summoner Druid here, but I think it actually slows me down, so I think I'm going to save it for next turn and go Summoner Druid CFC. This was a bad hand. Did not draw one of my, what, something insane like 13 2-drops. Oh, discard. I think we just discard a CFC. Nah, I actually want to use the CFC, so we'll discard a Shrine. Oh, perfect. Alright, so we get the Summoner Druid down, and now we can play the Elite Vanguard, and we'll Divine Offering the Tornado Outbreak. Alright, so this is probably the mill deck. The Nature mill deck has been really interesting. It's kind of resurfaced recently. Fumes and Tornado. There's the Call of Yalaya. I think we send back the Silver Fang and save Call. I can't really think of what I could use here. That's kind of funny, actually. I could just double CFC and hit him. That does leave him with a very awkward setup. Okay, now that we've drawn the extra one, I think that's what I do. So I essentially chunk him for 5 and... Let's see, I think I send back the Call now, because I was thinking, like, what would I want out of Call of Yalaya? Ancient Treant, and I've got it in hand, so there's no reason to call there. He's in a very awkward spot right now, where Blood Witch Harpy literally does nothing. Well, I mean, apart from being a flyer, I guess. He's gonna need something like Landslide, or he's in a bit of trouble here. Is this a sacrifice effect? I mean, he could go sack, fumes. I kind of want to trade with a bit of his backline. Oh, interesting. Very interesting. So, I actually don't mind losing some creatures here. I mean, I've got Instill Life, but that's not really the point. I don't mind losing some creatures here because I can Reverence and just go Ancient Treant and another dude. Which seems to be the good play here. I think I just drew... Yeah, 3 CFCs total. What? I don't know why that happens. I think it's if you look at your graveyard when you attack, the creature just shoots off the other direction. I have no idea why. Oh, that's so bad against this deck. I've just realized how much of a detriment Mill is against an Instill Life deck. So he's now effectively put an extra Treant in my yard. That is not an advantageous thing to do. Alright, now we can just instill. Now I could get Elite Vanguard, but I think I'm just gonna get... Like, I'm gonna kill him in 2 swings anyway. So I'm just gonna get CFC just to get the extra speed in play. Also, it plays around like Landslide, Tornado Outbreak, and such. Now, I haven't actually played anything yet, so I can just go Summoner, Oath Warrior. This is what I meant by Cataclysm, by the way. Like, this is the Cataclysm turn. Like, there's nothing else you can do there. Now, that was a rather hilarious counter with Instill, but you get the idea. That wasn't even a very good start. Like, that was not even a very good start. Like, this kind of deck generates so much tempo early game through CFC, through Tornado, and then Ancient Treant just locks out the game. That's basically how the deck works. It is very, very powerful. Now, it does have a few bad matchups, the main one being Cataclysm decks, and by bad, they're like 60-40, but yeah, they're not good matchups is the point. They do get a bit awkward. You have to play Gurkha Tribe Shamans deliberately off Call of Your Lion, things like that to actually break through. It's a bit tricky, but against everything else, the deck is very, very powerful. Apart from, I think Hate Bears is also the only other bad matchup. I'm actually not sure about the Hate Bears matchup that much. But I think it's bad against Hate Bears if I recall, because the discard is just brutal. And it's a Reverence mirror, but one of them has Flesh Sculptor. So, yeah. Flesh Sculptor, Mesmerizing Spirit, and even stuff like Insatiable Ghoul can be a bit awkward sometimes. If they have, I mean, if you go Elite Vanguard and then they have Infected Survivor and Ghoul, like, that can be a bit awkward. If you have Elf Warrior, it's not too bad. But if they have, if you don't have the 3-speed, it can be a little awkward. So, yeah, Hate Bears is a bit of a problem, and Cataclysm decks are a bit of a problem. The rest, though, seems to be fairly favored. So, yeah, very, very powerful deck. I did play it at Masters, only played it once, because it was the Banned Nature tournament. Like the last two were as well. But anyway, so it was the Banned Nature tournament. But I only played it once, and I got a terrible opening hand, and I still won the game. So yeah, the deck is incredibly powerful. Again, all credits go to Starwatcher, who's the guy who came up with this, and this is basically card for card his list. I'll link his deck that he put on Spellweaver source in the description. But anyway, thank you all for watching. If you like the content, please subscribe. If you have any feedback or want to ask me any questions about the deck, put it in the comment section below. If you want to support the channel directly, there is a link to my Patreon in the description. But as for now, it's been Jotto, signing off.